Hey guys, something that I've been thinking a lot about recently is why we don't take action on our dreams, why we don't take action on our desires. You'll have noticed a theme in the past few weeks and episodes here, and I really want to talk about this quote today from Deepak Chopra. The ego relies on the familiar. It is reluctant to experience the unknown, which is the essence of life. Hello, welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Welcome back, friends. I'm Dr. Taryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. Even if it's feeling hard for you right now, even if your fears and your pain feel so loud and hot right now, today is going to be a great day because in pain and in fear lies great learning. In pain and fear lies the essence of life. What? I know that sounds really masochistic, but it's so interesting. As doctors and dentists, we know pain and fear. We see it and we treat it every single day. This is our bread and butter. This is what we have become expert in. What's so interesting is we've become expert in taking away pain and taking away fear. But really, there's something magical in pain and fear. Now, bear with me here. The things in our lives that matter most to us are the things that cause us to feel pain and fear. Someone passes who you don't know doesn't affect you. Someone passes who's really close to you, ooh, that's so painful. Something that you're trying new for the first time that doesn't really matter to you. It's a painting class. You've never painted before. One of those muse bars, right? You're going out with some friends and you've never done it before. You're not really afraid of what's going to happen because that painting doesn't really matter that much to you. But if your livelihood depends on the sale of a painting, if you are an artist, if you've just had enormous success with your most recent work and now everyone is waiting for the next big piece, fear steps in because it matters. See, pain and fear actually have our greatest lessons, and it really is the sweet spot of life. Deepak Chopra said it's the essence of life. I grabbed this other quote today. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And it's so interesting to me because pain and fear that we avoid so often exactly have that answer for us. Now, let's bring this to more mundane instead of the esoteric. I want you to just imagine a time in your life where there was a really difficult decision. And when I say difficult, it's probably alluding to a time where you struggled to make that decision. The choices, all the choices that you had in front of you seemed equally scary. You didn't want to stay and you didn't want to go, right? You didn't want to be with that person, but you didn't want to not be with that person. And when we're stuck in that conflict, it's because there's something telling us that the existing situation is painful enough that it's awakening for us a need to move in a different direction. But the fear of the unknown is holding us back from making that choice. And now we're stuck in limbo. And now we're stuck in suffering. It happens easily at any point in our lives, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, you name it. And we see this in our patients. Reflect for a moment on your patients and you'll absolutely know this to be true. No two people experience pain in the same way, right? No two people do, right? And isn't it so interesting? I know all the time in dentistry we say, it's not just pressure, it's not pain, it's just pressure. I'm just going to be applying some pressure. We're warning our patients before we touch them, right? Especially the ones who, you guessed it, are fearful. And there's the key, by the way, because what exacerbates the experience of pain is fear. That's it. That's it. That's why no two people experience pain the same way, because it depends on their level of fear. That's the whole point. You know, I've been playing around with a Shakti mat. I don't know if you've ever heard of a Shakti mat. It's basically a mat that has spikes on it all over. I know. It sounds crazy. And if you haven't tried it, I highly advise it. It's a great learning experience, and it really feels really good. I know that sounds crazy, but this Shakti mat has thousands of little spikes on it, and you lie down on it with your bare back. And at first, those spikes feel painful. Now, they're plastic. They're not going to hurt you. There is nothing bad that can happen. They do not pierce the skin at all. There's no threat of damage, but as you're lying on it, your brain starts going to the place of the unknown, right? Your brain's not used to feeling that much discomfort on such a large surface area. So immediately you get this urge to get up. Get up. This is uncomfortable. And really, that's a fear of the unknown. The truth is, nothing bad is going to happen if you stay on that darn mat. And what's really interesting is that when you do surrender to it, just stay in that position on the mat, after a few minutes, the experience of the pain starts to transform. And this makes so much sense from what we know from medicine and dentistry. It's the pain gate theory, right? We're putting pressure in multiple places. And so after a while, your nervous system reads the pain differently. Now it takes on a heat, and then even a warmth, and then even a softness. I've fallen asleep on this thing. And it's so fascinating because the same thing happens to us in real life. When we stop fighting the pain or the fear, when we stop avoiding the fear or the pain, it transforms into something else. And now we start to understand the learning, the message in it. And the message in the Shakti mat is just, I'm scared that something bad is going to happen. My body's going to, even though intellectually I'm telling myself, Taryn, nothing's going to happen if you lie down on these spikes. My brain's telling me, oh, because I don't know that to be true, because I haven't experienced it yet, I'm going to insert all these fears in the unknown. And even though they're nothing tangible, it's so loud that it makes you want to sit up off that mat. I can't tolerate this anymore. And there's the other fear. Can I tolerate this much discomfort? The fear is I'm not capable. It reminds me of when I had my 3 children. So I'll tell you a little story. My first 2 pregnancies, because I was so stressed and overwhelmed in dentistry and owning my practice and consistently washing my body with cortisol, I was living in a state of stress eternally. My body didn't know different. And I did that throughout my pregnancies, to the extent that both of my first 2 babies were born significantly prematurely because the pregnancy just wasn't viable, wasn't able to sustain the full 10 months under so much stress in my body. So I've told this story before too. I was back to work before both of their due dates, which, yes, you heard that right. It sounds insane, but so many of you have lived this experience. You know that place that we get to of deep hustle and hard work where we're tearing ourselves down and putting our bodies through more than we really should. And for both of those pregnancies, because I came to labor so early in my pregnancy, I hadn't had the benefit of classes, birthing classes. So for both of them, I was rushed to emergency delivery, and they gave me an epidural. There was no question. I was in labor. They were going to give me an epidural. Wasn't in that much pain yet, but the writing was on the wall and the epidural. And because I could feel nothing from these very successful epidurals, I pushed really hard. Shout out to all my friends who do their very best job always, right? So just like every one of you, the hardest working person in the room, I pushed the hardest I possibly could and couldn't feel anything. So both my first two babies came out with enormous hematomas on their heads, which led to complications. Their little bodies, their livers were not mature enough to process that much blood from the hematoma. So, there was complications. With my third child, I had discovered self-hypnosis, which is why now she's only 11. She acts like a 16-year-old. 11 years down the line, that's why I'm now certified in hypnotherapy, because I've seen the healing and the incredible therapy that can be done through hypnosis, especially rapid transformational therapy using hypnosis. But at the time, I had just discovered hypnobirthing, and I thought, okay, this is a great way for me to learn to tolerate the pain, because I know that what I'm doing is pushing so hard I'm hurting these babies, and I want to feel. What was so fascinating in her delivery, first of all, I had learned self-hypnosis, which also meant I had learned how to regulate my nervous system, which also meant I learned how to calm myself down. So she was not premature. In fact, I was 2 weeks late with her. I had taught my body how to activate parasympathetic nervous system, rest, and digest to such an extent that now my body was a safe home for this child. And when I went into labor, I knew exactly what to do with self-hypnosis. It was a beautiful experience. I was able to feel everything. And because I was able to feel everything, she was born with a beautiful head with no bruising. There was nothing wrong with my anatomy. There was nothing wrong with the birth canal. It was simply a matter of me being able to feel. Now, when you're doing self-hypnosis, you don't stop feeling. You just create a new relationship with the pain. And pain becomes an informant, a personal professor. Remember when I said no two of our patients experience pain in the same way? In fact, remember when I mentioned when you say to a patient, this is just pressure, it's not pain, I'm just going to put some pressure. To some of our patients, that is painful. That feels painful. What feels like pressure to you feels like pain to someone else. And the only thing that makes a difference is their level of fear. Have I just caused a light bulb moment for you, right? It's those terrified, fearful patients, whether they show it or not, that feel and experience pain more significantly. Now, of course, there are some of our patients who are able to dissociate. So sometimes the pain is so bad, or maybe you've had trauma in your life to such an extent that you've learned to dissociate from the pain. And that's what I had done for many years myself. I learned how to just turn off my understanding of pain. So I had an enormously high pain tolerance. But when I was having labor and going through labor without numbing the pain, fully experiencing it, I could literally transform my understanding of the pain and allow my body to learn from it. When to push, how hard to push, how to position my body, how to breathe, when to calm myself down, when to relax the muscles, because when we get scared, the muscles tense. And then we're in more pain, right? Because tension adds to pain. Tension exacerbates pain, and tension is brought on by fear. Hey guys, I'm interrupting you for just a moment to give you some very exciting news. The doors are open for Radical Happiness Boost starting this October 16th, a 9-week accelerated program to teach you how to dance with fear. I mean, very timely in this episode, by the way. How to take action on your fears, how to understand those limiting beliefs and transform those beliefs that have held you back, that have had you feeling less than, not enough, afraid of losing love, afraid of failing. Let this boost give you the wings you need to take flight in 2024 to create the reality of your dreams. Find it on www.thebizofhappiness.com. You can find Radical Happiness Boost right there, or check out the link in the show notes. And I cannot wait to see what this next step in your life holds for you. So I'm telling you this story because it's very relevant as to why we don't take action on our dreams. Because we are too fearful of the unknown. And actually, allowing ourselves to experience the discomfort of change, allowing ourselves to experience the discomfort of growth and transformation actually holds the greatest secrets. And you know, in that quote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek," that quote from Joseph Campbell, it's not that the treasure is sitting on the other side. It's that the treasure is in the understanding of the fear, the understanding of the pain and the fear. Why is it that right now I am so scared? It reminds me of another story. You know, both of those examples, the Shakti mat and my birthing stories, are really examples of physical pain. But I want you to know that the same is true for emotional pain, psychological pain. The example of if someone passes who you don't know, doesn't really hurt that bad. You might feel enormous sympathy or empathy for the person who died. But if it's someone close to you, if it's someone, a family member or a very close friend, that pain seems amazingly insurmountable, right? So difficult to wrap your head around and so difficult to move through. And I use those words on purpose because I don't like the idea of overcoming. Overcoming pain speaks to that dissociation I was talking about. We never want to overcome pain because pain actually has the message for us. So when we're feeling that pain, it's because of the deep love, right? Or maybe it's the sadness of not having shared our truth with that loved one before they passed. Or maybe it's moments lost. Or maybe it's a future lost. But the point is, the pain has the message in it. And it's unique to each and every one of us. So going after your dreams is so much more important than the reward on the other side, than what it becomes on the other side. It is in the journey. It is in the discovery of the lessons that you're learning along the way. When my brother passed, when my brother took his life in 2016, oh my gosh, the most painful thing that I've ever experienced. And I wallowed in it for so long, but the wallowing took so long because I was trying to overcome it. I was trying to get beyond it. I was trying to do everything to, quote unquote, feel better. But the moment I allowed myself to stop resisting, I was able to find the lesson in it. Why was this so painful? And for me, it was around guilt. Now, once again, everybody's journey is different, and I'm just sharing you the illumination I had. And when I realized the pain was tied to my feeling guilty about his passing, that was the enormous lesson I needed, because the moment I understood it was about guilt, the feeling of guilt that I had, I was able to heal that guilt and remind myself of the truth that I had nothing to feel guilty about, that this was his choice, his autonomy, this was his journey, and that I could let go of the responsibility and the control of his life. And the moment I did that, the transformation was enormous, not just in my relationship with him, which now transmuted into this beautiful guidance that I get from him, which if makes no sense to you, then I get it. I wouldn't have believed it myself. But Douglas was the reason I started the Business of Happiness podcast. Douglas was the reason why I took this turn in my career path. And he still is. The deep lessons that I got from this were enormous, but only when I gave myself permission to sit with the pain, to surrender to it, just like I do with that Shakti mat. On that Shakti mat, the pain transforms. And the only thing holding us back from experiencing the pain and the lessons in the pain is the fear of the unknown. And that's where we come back to Deepak Chopra's quote, that the ego relies on the familiar. It's reluctant to experience the unknown, which is the essence of life. I couldn't possibly have known the lessons I would receive from experiencing the pain of childbirth, from experiencing the pain of losing my brother. I couldn't possibly have known the beautiful lessons I would have learned from the pain of closing a practice that was my baby, growing something with my whole heart and then saying goodbye to it. And in that decision making before I closed the practice, lived the pain and, if you will, the suffering. If we imagine suffering is when we're feeling the pain, but we're not taking action. So we keep living in the pain. We're not allowing for the learning. We're not allowing for the surrender. We're not allowing for the healing. We keep trying to squash it down. It's okay. This is fine. This is better. This is okay. I'll never forget the interview that I heard a few years ago with this incredible therapist who was working with refugees who were arriving in new countries after doing the unimaginable, after getting on boats off of their war-torn countries' shores and traveling into the ocean in these boats that they knew were not safe. Too many people without clear direction, maybe having sold everything they own to pay terrorists and pirates to travel them, these scary people, over waters that they were unfamiliar with. And I'll never forget that what she said was, the only way refugees make it onto those boats is when the ocean represents more safety than the land. And it makes me realize how often we make decisions that way. We get pushed to a point of finally taking that step. We almost wish for it. I'm thinking now of marriages that are really falling apart, and you hear incredible women who are so torn about taking that next step, about dissolving a relationship, and you'll hear her say, well, at least he doesn't hit me. We almost wish that he would, right? If he would, then I'd have a reason to leave. Creating more danger on the shore than on the unknown ocean in front of us, because that's what finally gets us to take that step. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if we could allow ourselves to sit in the fear and the pain of the unknown and take that step without having to demonize the shore, without having to wait for it to get as bad as it can before we take a step into the unknown? What if we start to learn, what is it that's calling me forward, that's asking me to say yes to my dreams? And why is this so scary to me? What am I so afraid of? And allowing ourselves to sit in that discomfort and discover what it is. And it might be something you never even thought would be true. Well, I'll tell you that it's been my greatest lesson in my life. Anytime I have a fear of doing something, I know it's calling me to have a deeper understanding of myself. And it's so fascinating when we learn to pivot, the next pivot gets a little bit easier. The next choice, we gain a little bit more courage. Why? Because we've made stepping into the unknown more and more familiar. And here's the truth. There is only unknown. Isn't that fascinating? Is it so funny that all the things we fear the most are actually the things that are the most true? We fear death. Guess what? We're all going to die. We fear the unknown. And guess what? That is the only truth. We have no certainty about tomorrow. We have no certainty about anything. So fascinating that those things that we fear the most are actually the most true in our lived experience. So what's the thing that you're fearing? Where are you sitting in pain right now? Whether it's physical or emotional or psychological or spiritual pain, what pain are you experiencing right now? And how can you just surrender to it? Stop avoiding it. Stop dissociating from it. Stop trying to get over it, and allow yourself to understand the message underneath that pain. Because right there is not only your greatest learning that's very unique to you, but as Deepak Chopra says, it's the essence of life. And remember, when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye-bye.